that whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to the Ascension update, and actually also a post-eclipse transmission for August. So the first thing I need to say and share with all of you is that I was actually walking in the mountains, and I've heard Spirit name this month a golden month. And of course, you know, August is always a golden month because we have the sunflowers and we have so much light pouring through the 8-8 gateway, which is the Sirius gateway on the 8th of August. Plus this year, as you know, we also have the eclipse season, and last year we have as well. And if you remember, go a year back, I was sharing about the golden eclipses. So now this golden month is like a manifestation in its well. So we look at always the eclipses as separate celestial events and unfoldments, although they are a shared experience. It's almost like a cultivation of something that your soul is working on. Let's say just this while I got this vision about how much effort and planning on a higher soul level it actually is required for us to have this body, to be embodied in this body, so that our ancestors are moving from one place to the other, so eventually there can be perfect positioning of everything, of all the layouts that you need, that you require specifically on the soul level to be the you that you've chosen to be in this life, in this lifetime experience. So I was really envisioning how much moving and migration, and you know, ancestors went from here to there, built different genetic lines and different fortitudes and spiritual gifts, so that in the end what could manifest is, you know, this seed, the birth of life that you've chosen to live in this specific lifetime. Especially for those of us who are volunteer souls, imagine this was a planning of several eons, not just lifetimes. So imagine it begins, this project of light, as a beautiful manifestation of the seed of humanity that's now rising up to the occasion and to the surface of becoming something that, you know, now we have the opportunity to become, especially those who are going first. Of course, not all of humanity as of yet, but definitely a group of beings who have been working on their illumination for quite a while now. Not just this life, but this is a simultaneous and parallel lifetime experience, okay? So the golden month now, think of what this means to you, what it represents for you, okay? So July was very intense. We've actually wrapped up the month with a strong lunar eclipse, and I'm sure you felt it in your own way. I'm going to share my own experience with you as well as we get to that part. I've actually thought that the update I shared in July is going to be for both months, but then I got specifically called to do this little transmission. It won't be as lengthy as it usually is. I'm just going to share the main focus that I was shared. It's important at this time. But this is a spirit to show me the paths have been laid. That's what they've shared with me. When I was walking the mountains yesterday, I was really climbing very high. The heat finally came here. We didn't have heat the entire summer. Now it's halfway through, and finally we got a heat wave as well. Yay. But right in the middle of the recording, this is not actually so pleasant, but I'm going to try to go along as best as I can. So I was actually hearing and feeling that, you know, the groundwork has been laid. There's no more so much need for words and explanations, and that was the part of being informed, of seeding the light. But for all of you who find yourself now at this point of stillness, silence, you know, this is not the same way as saying, okay, I'm going to retreat in order to isolate myself. A full retreat in its fullest sense is not isolation at all, because isolation refers to the physical part or the physical component of the experience alone, which means you isolate yourself, not necessarily you're experiencing inner peace and ecstasy of being and true joy, okay, to be one with all life. So when I do these retreats, and just yesterday I came home from another 3-day retreat in the wilderness, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know, I do all these things as a hyperactive being that I am. But, you know, whenever I'm on one of these retreats, I come back really, you know, even though it appears that I'm isolating myself, I'm not, because I'm not just somewhere in silence. You know, I try different things. I do different avenues of what I'm being called in each moment and to give to my body. And the most important thing for me on those retreats is to really be present within my body, to be in my body and be so present with it that I offer it what it truly needs, so that it can fully revitalize and come back in this new resplendent form. And each time I get a new piece of wisdom. And the thing is, you might expect it's going to be more enlightening, more in this and that, more words, but each time it's actually with more silence and with less to say and share in the kind of format that, you know, it's more energetically potent. And I remember years back in the beginning stages of this work, I was just sharing so much, and many times it overwhelmed people and even myself sometimes, because there was just so much work. You know, the more words you receive, the more you have to share, the more knowledge you have to kind of like compile, and resources, you know, that are brought into the whole experience. And I was doing so much. And now the more I unplug, but it's not really the same as isolation, it's just unplug from that which is unnecessary. And this is what is the main theme for this month, as a golden month, a month of golden opportunities, which we are creating on our own. So because we have ended this Aquarius liberation full moon eclipse at the end of July, sorry, I got a little tongue-tied here. It was actually an opening. I shared with you before that this is a dimensional doorway. It's a dimensional passageway. Sorry, it's so hot. It's really so hot, so it's hard for me to stay focused with words, to even physically, speak, but I'm trying. So it was really important for us to find that space where, you know, we're not just getting more and more knowledge. This is a point of synthesis. I've shared this with you before. So what Spirit has shown me during this mountaineering experience is that because this groundwork has been laid, we're now like a, you know, chicken laying on its eggs, and just this golden egg of creation somehow permeates all of it, and eventually it all comes together as it needs to, without our, let's say, input in a way of control and thinking, well, now we've done the process, so because we've done the process, we're the ones who are actually in charge. This is the part where we allow the higher forces at work to be in charge. So it's kind of like that. Okay, so this is the knowing of our creation. That's the theme of the month, is knowing our creation. What is truly our creation and what is not? What is the part where we are fulfilling other people's desires and wishes and their projections of who they think we are, but maybe we're not that? And even people who are very advanced beings, as they come here in this planet, even volunteer souls, we always are dealing with people's illusions about us, people's projections and expectations. And it's a part of our mastery to really see what's truly not authentic. You know, people say, oh, you are like this and that, so therefore you do this and that way. Might be their observation. It might be their filtering of our true experience, but that experience has already been so filtered and processed, it's no longer who we are. It's like, how much of our true essence is still contained within that? These are some of the things we're going to have to ask ourselves. So I have finished reading the book I've shared with you, Family of Light, from Barbara Marciniak. I almost wanted to add Dawn, well, maybe, perhaps, because the Bringers of the Dawn is just so influential in her work of channeling. So this was a beautiful book that was like a walk through the experience of our ancestry, our future, you know, our visions for humanity. How impactful truly are we as co-creator beings? Because we'll all talk about it, but truly how crystal clear have our intentions, our thoughts, because this is where it all begins. And then the visions that are fed through our emotions, that are actually filtered through deeper feelings. How clear that truly is, okay? So the Aquarius eclipse, that lunar activation, well, for me it was very potent. And it brought like this unveiling, because we work with packages of light. As you know, as a family of light, we say, okay, I'm going to take on this and this project and this, and we work on them simultaneously in parallel. We don't have one project in a linear way, then we finish it, we move on to the next one. In a bigger sense, it might feel like that, but it's truly more like a spiral unfolding. That kind of, if spiral can have a sequence, then maybe we can perceive as different sequences between that spiral unfoldment, but still coming out as rays that are rays of creation in parallel. It's not like from here to there. So imagine you're not on a treadmill. This is how most of humanity has felt. We're on a treadmill, and we keep on, you know, we want to fulfill things, and we reaching for goals and, you know, things to fulfill. But what those of us on the path of self-illumination, realization, we've come to this point of synthesis, is just how much we really don't know, okay? And yet at the same time, holding this vision, because we are the creator. We are a part of the creator that does not know exactly how the creation will come about, is what we were in need to surrender. And especially those of you who say, I have vast amounts of knowledge, because this can also become an entrapment for the human spirit to truly blossom and flourish in the human experience itself. So we had this eclipse that was like an unveiling experience, and for me, what it felt like during one package of energy that I worked with, which was pretty heavy and intense. In July, I thought, I'm gonna have my holiday. Well, guess what? I didn't. I worked a lot behind the scenes, but it felt more like work, and we didn't have nice weather here, so it was all more like challenge, 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 one after another. And that's why my latest video, just one before this one, it kind of revealed that. It reflected that difficulty and that challenging moments, and sometimes even moments of frustration that built up as a part of that experience. So when we complete a certain package of energy, we will know. And I had that experience of the late, and I've shared on Instagram my story. It was just a few days before the eclipse. I think it was on Wednesday, and we had the eclipse on Friday, the 27th of July. And before that, which I thought is going to be my ceremony here and with the fire and with it all that, but I actually had my own eclipse experience much before that. And it was exactly on that day we came to the lake, and I thought, I'm going to have such a beautiful day. I'm going to swim and all that. Well, I did that for the first hour. And then for those of you who are not on my Instagram and don't read these stories that I share with you there, and kind of follow up with all my stories from retreats and the things that are really brought forth as a natural crystallized wisdom, harnessed from the experience of life, because life is the biggest teacher for us. We don't learn from books. Volunteer souls, we all learn from direct experiencing, because the experiencing, as they share in the book of Family of Light, allows us to read the book of Earth, because we're becoming one with the experience rather than fragmented and like separate from it. So this is the difference, okay, in holding that energy. So when you go about, and especially when you're with nature so much, like I am, you are tapping into and learning and seeing messages in everything and everyone. Like just recently in my retreat, it's like always these animal messengers. But the beautiful experience was a day before last, when I went on this beautiful spot to just be there, rest a while. It was by water in a mountain gorge, and suddenly I see this wasp, and she's there in her nest, and I put my things there on that specific rock, and I'm like, ooh, wait a minute, ooh, there's a wasp there. And you know, most people would panic, but I just see the wasp. I'm like, okay, let me just tune into energy. Is she noticing me? Does she feel threatened by me? You know, how is this going? Truth be told, when I just stayed present with the energy, she didn't even notice me. She was so much into doing her thing and doing her nesting or whatever she was doing. I was observing her, but not all the time, because I just wanted to disengage from her experience to make her feel peaceful with what she was doing and needing to create, because only she knew what she was doing. And that was the message that I'm going to translate for a lot of us here who are a part of this true synthesized integrated mastery, divine human on earth. So she was so present with it, she couldn't even pay attention to where I am. And I, you know, for the first time, usually wasps fly around you and they smell something, especially if you smell nice, they come and you're like, well, you know, the more you do like this, the more they want to come into your field. It's like field jumpers, right? So basically, she couldn't care less if I was there. So I just observed her, how she was, you know, moving her bottom part and just putting it into those little holes. You know, she has her little house. And the first message was about home building and really creating that solid foundation. But usually there's a few wasps in what they create, you know, their housing. But there was just one. And I was thinking how important this is. And then I meditated, I reflected on that. And Spirit said, well, this is all about you being the one. You are in charge. You are no longer in need to, you know, I need other aspects or elements for me to even get my creation flowing, to get things done the way I do. And the biggest part about this, and this is where this unfolding eclipse in August, which I think is on the 11th, is moving us towards, is really knowing our creation. What is ours? What isn't ours? I'm going to share my eclipse experience with you again. This was the lunar one, to make you just see and tap into how only we know what we know. Only we and our soul, who's in charge of this, knows the process. Like, what are we doing and why are we doing what we are doing in order to get where we need to be and do what we need to do? It's like a lot of people always want to have this knowledge, which is they know and they want to be part of the process. And yet, if we don't invite people to be a part of the process because there's a specific soul alignment and resonance and agreement to co-create something together, there is more of an interference and energetic kind of like you're building something and someone wants to be part of that because they don't yet know what house they're building. So imagine that. It's like, you know, cuckoo birds and nesting and stealing each other's nests, which is really not, you know, like a very sovereign if you consider it from a masterful perspective. We don't know their lessons and why they're doing that and where from their lineage of whatever they've been through in their ancestral bird life. We don't know that, so we can't judge what they're doing. And in comparison with other people is just as well. But we have to see clearly, okay, why is this happening? Okay, where is our creation sovereign and when it isn't? Even if it's sovereign from within, are there sovereign or non-sovereign influences that want to be part of that? Okay, so the first thing to share here is that the eclipse coming on the August 11th will be in Leo, I think 18 degrees. That's interesting, right? 18, the number relates to, in tarot, it's the moon. In degrees, like galactic degrees, it's a little different story again, but also it's all connected. But I want to share how much importance is played this month in the numbers of the month. So we have August, which is always for me, it's always a month of union. Whatever kind of union you perceive here to be, of course, it begins with your deepening into lumen union, and then it's reflected with the other being. So like in the sign of the infinity, that's always for me. August is the month when you go deeper into union. Maybe especially for me because it usually activates my 8th house because I have a little bit of Cancer, but mostly Leo there in the 8th house. So eclipses are impacting me this year in this way to the 8th house, which is the transformation, but deep inner reflection and union as well when you go deeper into those layers. So Spirit has showed me the importance of these numbers because we have if you add up 8 to 11, which is our universal year this year, we get 19. And when we kind of divide it further on, we have 19, and then we have 10, and then we have 1. And in tarot, these archetypes are the sun, the wheel of fortune, and then 1 is the magician. So look at all these three, this divine trinity together. It's all about creation, right? It is all about that solar light, solar logos, divine masculine. The magician is also the masculine archetype. And then we have the wheel, which is you are driving your own destiny. You are creating whatever it is you're creating. And we have this Leo creator energy. It's like be your powerful creator. And you can easily feel the shift going on. So when I consider that light package that I was, integrating for so long, that I've taken on, and sometimes we feel it as burdens when we look at it from the lower perspective, and yet they're masterful things, projects we kind of like sign up for, and we want to really get to the bottom of it. And then when you do it, I had this instant reaction almost like the next day. I was screaming and squeaking out of joy and happy, and just going for a walk and seeing once again everything was so beautiful, like when you notice it for the first time, like it becomes alive again, because you've blended it, another portion of your divinity, into this what we call the earth matrix, and the 3D perception, which sometimes still feels fixed and not so much moving, and like something we can modulate. Okay, so I've been shown that these eclipses now are summoning, or I think astrologers are saying they are the last portion of these eclipses that happen this way, and these signs. So it's kind of like last year the theme was the golden eclipses. Now it's the golden month. So it's, what are we creating that's truly of gold, of liquid gold? Because every day we create something, right? Your own personal experience, let's say, your preferences, whether you will have this for breakfast or you're going to eat this and that. That's just small creations to practice, okay? If people can't even decide on that, they don't know what it means to create. But what I'm talking about here is this triad of the eclipses that's stimulating and activating this point of what are truly our higher visions, and how much light of devotion can go into that. Because a lot of times we say we want this, but we don't go fully in it. And when saying that, it doesn't mean you have to do every single thing based on action and activity that will get you that result. No, it's stimulating all your energetic responses and all of your, it's like in your chakra column, right? That relates to your 7 chakras in the body and 5 outside of the body. So basically the 12 octave, the new DNA, chakra spin, human. So when this is so engaged, that all of this presence is poured into what you believe you're creating, and knowing this is my sovereign creation, and still not being in a way separate from other people and what they're creating, like respecting, not thinking mine is the best, but knowing the value that source operates uniquely through you. That's Leo, okay? And we are in the month of Leo, so this is the energy that we're working with. And to know the sovereign creation is to know what this is not, because in my own ancestral lineage and experience, I had to trace back patterns of eons, you know, just like self-reflecting of how much pleasing there was, not just people pleasing, but sometimes little tiny little droplets of energy that's no longer playing out as being authentic in your life. So you say, oh, let's go here instead of there, when you really want to go there. And you're thinking, well, it's okay, I'm just going to do it this time. And this is how something becomes a pattern. Okay, just this time, and then just that time. And then it becomes an exception, and then becomes a rule. Eventually it becomes a rule, okay? And we start feeding that rule over and over again. It's a belief, and then a belief system creates a whole paradigm that we imprint ourselves upon. So imagine being now born under this influence of liberation that this Aquarius lunation has triggered for us. How much of that freedom of our sourcefulness can there be, and that spontaneity of being? And when you see people who are not yet there, who are not yet fully in their own illumined state and their wholeness, they're still going to try something. They're going to be drawn to your light, and they're going to say, oh, please give me that, or I want this. They're going to start dreaming through you. And the source dreams through itself. Source dreams sourceness of becoming a magnificent creation. And as it was shared in the Family of Light book, it says the first rule is always source cannot be, or creator cannot be separate from its creations. And the part cannot be divided or separate from the whole. That's the first thing to know. That's basically one and the same. And knowing what is us, where do we truly begin? Are we truly us? Are we living our authentic being, our presence? Or are we living in someone's mind, someone's imagination? Because this often happens in my life, because I'm kind of like put out there in the screen, and many people's computers or phones or whatever is now publicly, you know, popular. But even people who I've met in the physical life, they had an idea of me, and I've shared this often with you, how I've noticed through this knowing of myself. When you truly know yourself, you know your source, you know what you're here for, you know how to, not always how it's going to be done, but you know your aim, you know what your life force is moving you towards, because the soul dreams through you, through higher source, and it wants that to become your creation, because only you have decided that only you have that piece, that missing link. Okay, it's not really missing, it's not missing, it's there, it's always there, but from our human perspective we can call it like that. And many times people who have kind of gone lost astray or lose track of themselves as powerful creators, they often, you know, get really attached to someone who already is a powerful creator, and for a while maybe they want to dream through them until they refine their vision. But the thing is, for a while now, we have maybe been allowing that to become a part of our experience. So when we do that, we kind of keep it playing on and on like an old record that's, you know, it's like, ooh, it's spinning, but why is it even spinning? So recently someone that I know has started sending me all these wishes, you know, and text messages. I wish this for you, and I wish that for you, and it was so much abstract thinking into it, and so much of the really not necessarily, because in truth you can only wish someone love and the ultimate for the highest good and the highest good of all, and it is absolutely enough. Because the moment you start adding your own visions of it, you're actually dreaming for another. I mean, you want to be, in truth you can't. But someone's wishes for me is not the same as my own wishes. It's not my creation, because when you understand that we're sovereign, I already get my wishes from my soul. I know what to do to get there. Even when I don't, it's rightfully so. It serves a purpose in my life. So when someone starts to imbue their impressions of you, a lot of times they're dreaming about you because they have a vision of you. It's an aspect they themselves haven't yet fully lived out, or they're not living it out fully. They want to project and ideally, you know, draw through you. But this doesn't serve them to truly live their own sovereign. So lately I had to learn to express, even if I knew that it's well-wishing, you know, energy that's kind of sometimes stagnant, or it's not really helpful for us. It's not necessarily out of darkness. You know, darkness is also someone doing that out of non-awareness, subconsciously acting out. They're thinking, I'm doing good, but I want only good for you. But they want their good. They want their version of good for you. They don't know what you need. Only you do. For a reason, you are your own unique being. And when you move into the blendness of the integrated soul experience. You're not dissolving your personality, but you're enriching it. You're enhancing with the synthesis of all the yous in the multidimensional sphere of existence that you are. And that's truly being a sovereign on all these levels. So when something like that happens, and it happened to me, and you know, I needed to verbalize that out, because in the past I always felt, I can't say this because people, they want nice, they mean good. But what is that in comparison to being an authentic sovereign creator being? Because when you get to that level, and this is the golden man, don't forget, this is where we get to master this once and for all. You're gonna have to start not just be here to live out your own wishes and dreams. You're not here to fulfill other people's, because they're on their own journey of self-realization through their own source, which is basically one source, but it's still individualized for a reason because of this diversity of creation and experience in life. So when you encounter that, you're going to have to be very observing. You're going to have to see if there's a hook, and if there's a hook, you have to know you're here to live your truth, but not just to live it, but also to express it. Express it through love. And when you share truth with yourself and then being honest with another, you express it through love, because you're doing it through honesty, even if someone else maybe don't like to hear yet what you're saying. If they may be still rejecting it, or they're kind of being defensive about it, doesn't matter. You've planted a seed of rightfulness, truth within yourself, something that feels and sits right with you, because as a sovereign creator, that's your natural birthright. You're not doing it to negate someone. You're basically saying, hey, you're imprinting a little bit of that which is supposed to be your creation. And recently someone, that same one, who's very gifted with words, you know, there's like, with their words, it could be like a poet. And, you know, they kept sending me these things, and I said, you know what, wait a minute, what if instead of just sending it to me, because I'm like just like sending it to a trash bin, you just create something with it of your own frequency. Create a book or a poetry book or whatever it is. But don't become fixated that that is supposed to fall into this ground. Say, no, but this person needs to hear that. You don't know. Maybe they know. Maybe what is your gift to the world, you're trying to filtrate it and put it into, but I want this person to be a certain way and be with me a certain way and receive certain something from me that way. Because we really can't control that. That's the part of creation we cannot absolutely control. So when you know what you're creating, let's use an example of my retreat. I wanted to feel, I create through wanting to feel something. I want to feel freedom. I want to feel this feeling that I have in nature. I want to feel this natural arousal, which is me with all the elements merged together, creating what is called, you know, when you combine all the elements, you get the ether, you know, it's like a new synthesis comes, a new revelation of something when you do that synthesis. And for me, outdoors in nature, I do it like this. It's very simple for me, because that's the way my soul is built and inwardly programmed, designed. I'm designed to be this way. I cannot be any other way, but that's me. Okay, so when you will feel that someone has an idea of you, it doesn't necessarily fit that, right? But you know how you live, you know your routines. I'm not saying these like boring routines which keep you going in the same loops and circles. I'm talking about the devotions you do and devote your time to, so that you can have your own piece of the heaven on earth you're creating, because that's what we're doing. That creation is created through us. So when you feel like there's an imprint coming from the outside, you have to be justified through yourself, not self-justifying, like explaining who you are and why you're that way. There is no need for that. But just diligently and sovereignly saying, hey, you know, you might have an idea that you know me, but there's no one who knows me better than myself. I know what I know for myself. And why people get so involved with other people is because they get distracted with their creations. They maybe don't know yet who fully they are, because when you, trust me, when you know who you are, you become the most interesting facet of life to yourself. Doesn't mean you're most important, but you are interesting, because, you know, life has sent you into this facet of life that you're living on. Took, like I said, years and years to build a certain ancestry, to move a certain way, so geographically and physically and genetically everything could line up so you could come into being the way you wanted to, you know, be imprinted and designed through DNA encoding, which is basically just a translation of encoding of the light. Okay, so that it's the most possible and plausible, and, you know, has the highest potential for your self-realization in this life and assistance in serving divine love as a planetary server. So we have to be really, you know, we have to know what is truly of that innate principle, that innate perspective and design, which is our creation. Do we really know our creation? So recently, because I'm building like this whole new chapter in my life, and it begins here. Of course, here I'm pointing the wrong way. Like, yeah, it's like all sideways and everywhere, but just like should do like this. And it's with the heart. It's with everything. And people always think, well, it's not physical in your life yet, so are you bothering with spending time this and that way? All elements, I mean, all aspects of life are one. If something's not yet manifest, meaning physically present in your life, doesn't mean you're not always with it. It's the same way with the beloved. The illumined beloved is the partnership that is chosen to reflect that illumined union within is always with each other. It is within each other. And just because something is not physically present, you know, doesn't mean it's not there. Like, you could almost touch it, you can feel it, you can smell it. It has its aroma, it travels with energy. Sometimes it's more potent and very joyful, sometimes it's kind of a little on the down low, but you feel it because you feel yourself through that experience. So if someone will tell you, why are you wasting your time on this? It's not even physically in your life. These people don't understand that creation begins here. You know, and the infinity symbol being drawn here, that's what the family of light of Pleiadians have been saying. Just do that. Continuously move the figure 8, which is the infinity symbol, through your pineal gland and open your vision. So I think the highest statement they made in that book, the reference they made, was like, embrace all the ancestral lineage that was behind us, all that we're now doing, all that is before us, because remember that the kids or the children we're birthing, they're us in the future timeline, yes, because it's all one ancestry of the human design. So we have to really know, what does this mean, and how original and unique our perspective is within that, what we're envisioning for the whole as our part, but that it resonates with that which we would feel as heaven on earth, which is non-violent. It is all life honoring. It is sovereign, which means you don't get to deal with other people's creations. You know, they got it covered. They're their own master, even if maybe they're not living it yet, but they're still their master. You don't have to do things for them. You say, I'm going to do that brush stroke for you so you can learn the next time. Maybe they don't even need that. The next time they say, oh, can you show me again how you did that brush stroke, please? I forgot. You know, people start making all these excuses because sometimes it's like, you're like lagging behind because of that. It's like these little shortcuts. There is truly, for growth, for ultimate growth to occur through richness of mastery, there are no shortcuts. So I want to share again my beautiful eclipse experience for those of you who are not on Instagram. So what happened when we got to the lake, so this is where I get to explain again. The first hour was very beautiful and harmonious and all of that, but then suddenly I got these huge pains. And I was just about to get my period, and of course I didn't know which day I'm gonna get it. It's like, you know, it's like up in the air, you don't know. You feel, but you don't like fully know through control. You cannot control the moment and something's gonna happen, like birth, right? You're preparing for it, people are like preparing for the labor part of it, and then just happens, oh, my water broke, it's now, yeah, you know, sometimes even that now is not the right time, they come back. It wasn't yet, it was like a false alarm, but still. So what occurred was like I had the strongest, probably, menstrual cramps pain I ever had in my life. It's usually not that bad, and as you know, I'm living fully neutrally. I don't do any drugs, medications, zero, nothing. I only have this oil, essential oil, that's good for that. Sometimes I massage it in, and we did everything, it didn't help. And all of a sudden it got so bad I had to go to the bathroom, like, you know how it is, it's one and the same process. And I couldn't go, I couldn't move. All of a sudden the pain was just so bad. I couldn't move, I couldn't go anywhere, but I knew I had to because I had to eliminate. And I'm telling you these things because through these experiences you can see how fragile sometimes the body is. And we're all living through these experiences. There's no shame about it. There's no like, you know, oh, you're naked. Oh yeah, so what? In my retreats I often put my clothes off because I want to be in the relaxed state of real, that openness, not always hiding with all these layers that we're used to as humans now. So every time I wanted to do those few steps forward, I almost collapsed until eventually, suddenly, I was almost, you know, by my car, and I just fainted. I totally collapsed. I don't remember anything. I came back, you know, I went to the bathroom in nature several times. I came back to my car. I didn't know what was happening. It was just really terrible. And then there was a woman there, a being, and she helped us. She gave me like this little mineral water or something, and we just ran out of. So it was like beings sent assistance as always. I couldn't do anything but just wait it out, just surrendered. It was no way, the methods that usually work, it just didn't work. And it made sense because I had a really difficult month, really challenging month. And it made sense because for a woman, you know, what you do when the energies you work with through your body at the end of the menstrual cycle, when you release that physically, everything, all that, if it was a heavy month, it was something they were working with, let's say the energy was difficult or very dense, it will all run through your body. So that's like the last purging the woman will experience. That's how we do things through portal. Because imagine how sacred the body of the woman is, because the womb produces its own blood. That blood is not a part of the bloodstream that's like circulating right through our heart and the veins and the vessels in the body. And it's something so mysterious. It's like mystical. How can this be? Okay, so it's in a way we birth every month as women. Even if it's not like a physical child, it's still a birth. And afterwards, when it all, through as challenging and as painful as it was, for me it was difficult. It was just really difficult. I thought at a certain point I couldn't even breathe. It was that difficult. And I thought I'm just gonna keep collapsing. I can't do this or that. But then it got slowly better. And then the message coming in was how much the body and the nurturing of it is important now, because so much energy goes through it, especially for those of us who are pillars, portals in any way, for these energies of the old that are just being, it's like flushed away. People are always saying the new energies are painful. The new energies are not painful. The new energies are ecstatic. When you know new energies, this is usually when you are fully aroused. You're like, you can be like this and just absorb all. People have this kind of like mixed up. When people say, wow, I experienced pain because of all these new energies, that's not because of that. It's everything of the old, the eons of pain, even the pain that the feminine had to endure in the human experiences, all the suppression, the violation. As you know, the violation of free will, it's one of the hardest aspects that occur in the 3D density realm. And all the rapes and savaging and all of that. Imagine that we as women who said, I'm going to be a woman in this lifetime, to really know the feminine principle through the womb. Not just as in general, because it's beyond gender, the feminine principle, as we know it on Earth. But we said we're going to carry it through the womb. We're going to push a lot of this energy, and a lot of it is similar to contractions or birthing pains. And then afterwards, when they shared how important it is at that time, when women, we have that time of the period, we have to be really still. And I wasn't really still. I did a lot of movement, as always. I was like pushing myself, this, that, and you know, it all just built up. So after that experience, the guidance was that the stronger the contractions, the bigger the thing that I'm birthing next is going to be. And maybe some of you had a similar experience. I hope not that drastic. Didn't involve any falls to the ground and the sand and all of that. But that's a part of, you know, learning sometimes through the human creative child principle. So what came afterwards was a really beautiful realization that there was so much imprinting about pain, you know, in these lifetimes and this ancestral lineage. And all of a sudden, the knowing was, why is this still imbued within us? That, you know, a woman has to have this pain, or birth is painful, or this is painful. It is so deeply imbued in our cells, and it's being perpetuated through us, that now it wanted to be eliminated through that experience. So for me, it felt like that pain that was like still written somewhere inside just wanted to break through and say, oh, enough is enough. The funny thing is that when pain is released through initiation, through consciously, you're consciously aware of it. You're not like blocking it, suppressing it, but you're consciously moving through pain. That's called spirit initiation through pain. You are actually embodying something new, like a new aspect when you're doing it consciously, because right afterwards I felt almost orgasmic. I just wanted to lie down for a while because I was very weak. I wanted to lie somewhere like this by the water, and I just was vibrating, and I felt so much life force moving through me, because that dross, that heaviness just flushed away. And then I shared my experience. It was a little vulnerable for me to do so, and basically all the responses, I think but one, were super awake, enlightened. There were just people understand these things, or some of them had a very similar experience. There was just one response when someone said, oh, you need to check with the doctor and I'm worried about you. And I said, wait a minute. This is, again, that you see my creation, their creation. This is something maybe they would do. This is their process, it's not mine. And as a sovereign, instead of, we don't insult anyone, we can just simply say, that's not my perspective in creation. Maybe that's yours, I understand it, but it's not mine. Can you please not project your ideas or ideals onto me? So that's becoming very important for us on this path. Not necessarily we're doing it to, you know, insult anyone. We're just saying, hey, just as you have your right to have this thought, I have the right not to be inseminated with it. Because, you know, a lot of times I'm noticing I'm putting things out and I'm sharing these stories. I don't write at the end, please people, I want your advice or experience. I just share. And sometimes people do that, oh, but you should do like this and this. They're all full of these opinions. And we have to learn to do that. Like I was, someone shared with me when I had this session, and they said, always say, thank you for your opinion, I value it, but, you know, not necessarily my truth. And even when you, let's say you send worry to someone, you're sending them fear energy. So this is not sovereign and benevolent at all. Because worry is a fear of something not going right, someone not being supported, someone not going through their own initiation. There's certain things that we've agreed to experience, and someone saying, I'm going to prevent this for you because I worry about you, so let's just, you know, because I worry, do it like this way, the safe way. Not necessarily going to create a better result. And when I say better, it means for your highest upliftment and advancement in life. So the last thing I want to share in relation to this, how much sometimes pain, pleasure, the more we're unifying from within, the more this will just blend in together, and pain won't be seen as so intense and drastic. It won't be experienced because of that, you know. So when we have, let's say, emotional pain, it will eventually, if we don't really eliminate it, it will show through the body physically, because the body as a physical creation is now so strongly, it's so wise, it knows what it's doing, so it will want to unburden from that, and sometimes it does in a drastic way. So yeah, and the last thing I want to share with you today about multidimensional mastery is, before this eclipse gateway, which was 27th of July, one day before, we did a very spontaneous and very magical light activation here on the beach by the water. And I thought it was going to be about something, and it ended up being something completely different. And it was actually, the vision I got was us building like a golden ladder, right? Like a ladder upwards towards meeting this higher self in a place of integration. Not reaching for it, but moving towards it. And at the same time, there was a ladder descending down from what we would call the high realms, celestial realms, doesn't matter. People call it heaven, I don't call it like this. So imagine these were coming together, and what eventually merged, this place where there was this intersection, all of a sudden there was waves of this energy, ripples of energy. And Spirit has shared that without this synchronization, this integration process of the divine meeting the human, simultaneously human meeting the divine, there is no separation. So they're like moving into this merging point of synthesis, synchronization. This is where we actually can literally feel what it is to be multidimensional, to have or co-create experiences that are multidimensional in nature, no longer linear. Because when we have an aim like spirit descends into form, period, or the form is so dense and gross, so it has to move upwards in order to meet spirit, we will never know what it means, you know, when we say multidimensionals or galactic beings, because we haven't created the bridge yet. All these beings who are multidimensional, galactics, all of these that we are, that we have come here to see the planet with this awareness already, some of us who are galactics, they have built this bridge, like maybe some of them even eons ago. And here we are now impacting this timeline through what we know of what we reference as the future, but truly time is not, it's a spiral, it's an unfolding song of creation that's sung through, being spun through eons of time. A certain melody has to unravel and unfold, okay? So let's say you've heard the whole melody, you've heard the whole orchestra, you go back to the beginning, and because time is not fixed, you can go back and influence that seed, which is maybe at the very early stages of its evolution, like we're now in their human experience, and saying, look, this can be an outcome or that way, so if you use these strings or that kind of way of creation, that will happen, or this will happen. So this is where we are now, because the timelines are so merging and everything is so fluctuating that we're getting all these different opinions and facets of what can happen now on Earth. Well, they're all true and none of them are. Okay, so it is becoming important to be sovereign, know our creations, be sovereign in our creations, and understand them in a non-linear form, where this multidimensional reality, not just a concept, okay, we are multidimensional beings, and we have this in our minds, in New Agey kind of way. This is the exact birthing of multidimensional consciousness, and this is also what these books are talking about, both Bringers of the Dawn and Family of Light. So here in this intersection point, there was like this flooding of light, and there was like infinite openings, because these ladders met and they kind of recognized this space of non-separation, of complete unity, and the space of higher creation. You know, I still will often notice people who reach a certain level of, let's call it spiritual attainment, okay? I'm doing it like this because it's all spirit anyway. So I'm not doing this to mock anyone. I just like doing this because it's cute. And I often see that they will come to a certain point of realization and they think, well, that's it. I'm going to start teaching that to others. And a lot of times I see that. Recently there was two beings who shared something. I've just saw this sentence. It was something like, I think it was on Facebook, you know, when you have your twin flame, all the spiritual practices will become irrelevant. You don't need that. It falls away, blah, blah, all of that. It's like, if you have another person who is physically your twin flame, then all that drops away. It's no longer important. So you kind of render it non-important. It isn't so linear. It isn't when I have this, that is no longer part of the picture. When I have that, ooh, then that is out of the picture. This is still black and white, old dogmatic spiritual thinking. And a lot of people are still teaching that, and yet it's not new. It's not based on the multidimensional experience where everything is constantly moving into higher refined states of itself, because it all has its same origin, okay? So when you are a being of multidimensional consciousness, you don't teach in a dogmatic way. You don't come to realization and say, that's it. I know that it's it because it's the highest where I've ever gone towards, you know, I've gone through or come towards or come into this attainment. Yeah, maybe, but who says you're still climbing the ladder, right? Until this bridge point is truly with your light quotient mastery, it's created or co-created. There's still going to be a left, right, you know, even people who teach life beyond duality. That's one thing, right? Okay, life beyond duality. What is that? Well, basically you enter a life of multidimensionality and infinite operability. So what did I say here? Let me see if I've written down something. Yeah, so in this most recent light activation, the day before the eclipse, this ladder of spirit and matter towards spirit, we're coming together, the descending and ascending column of light that we're now fully ready to merge, okay? So here is where multidimensional access is actually available and possible in building that bridge, okay? So it's very similar to what they were saying in the Family of Light book. In those initiations that are asking us to constantly refine our visions, because as humans we tend to polarize things, or we tend to stop at certain realizations and think that's my ultimate. And the moment you say in the moment, you're gonna be in flux, you're gonna be moving with the energy. But when you say that's my ultimate ever, you're gonna block in that instant your highest expression, or a more refined expression of what you came into realization or into, okay, into awareness of yourself. So the Family of Light, I really recommend that book. It's a very simple read. It's more like a walk through, and even understanding the dark side of the polarity, their role, their version, their healing, and our part in their healing, and their part in our healing, because again, it's enmeshed. It's very similar. You can do the same with the light and dark. They have to meet. Before they do, there's going to be a constant battle for good versus bad, this polarization game that it just like constantly chasing after your tail. It never ends. And the ending point is a new beginning. So there cannot be a new cycle of creation until that summarization occurs, okay? So, yeah, that's it for this month. So again, the highlights are knowing our creation, knowing that it is sovereign, and then making it multidimensional. Building that bridge. That's what we saw, and Spirit was clearly showing us that before that bridge is truly created, we can only talk about multidimensional experiences, but we ourselves do not yet embody a state where this is physically possible for us, so that in our bodies we can have that experience. So keep on building that ladder, keep on climbing. If you have any requests, You can find all my beautiful courses to train you in audiobooks as well, to assist that remembrance process. So audiobooks are more like expanding into this infinite design through creation principles of life, who you are, why you're here, to have that cosmic spark of remembrance ignited within you. And mastery courses are to build your muscle, your physical muscle that accepts your spirit, and vice versa, so that you can really get on with your work of devotion here. And then there's other things as you know, I offer, but there's one last announcement I have, which is I have one last batch I made, and this is final now because I don't think I'm going to be making more. It doesn't, somehow it feels complete. So I have last 5 aura sprays, crystal ones. There's crystals inside, there's mountain spring water, there's rose water, there's everything. Beautiful smells. And this time I always imbue it with a specific essence. So because August is that infinity, the 8, we're going to have 8 gateway again. That walking through experience, if you're guided, it was imprinted this time, or it was held with the sacred intention of Lumen Union. So they're called Lumen Union aura sprays. There's just 5, and that's it, I think, for now. That's it. It's available on my page. You can visit my services page. You can visit my Patreon also to support me, and my products, my crystal shop, and all of that. So I can't talk anymore. It's just so hot. And ever since I came to sit here, now the sun has moved and it's now directly moving through me. And anyway, I hope that the whole month will be as juicy as it is now. Hot, spicy, golden, creating what we really know, what we want to give to ourselves. And like I said, in my case, if I want to feel a certain way, I go out and create an external experience where that kind of meets its match, or matches its meeting, or vice versa. So enjoy, have a beautiful month ahead, and if you want to support my work, you can always find links down below for all of that and where all of that is possible. And of course the Avatars of a Lumen Union audio, which is super amazing gateway. It's about an hour long into really knowing what that is, what a Lumen Union is, how it was being seeded through different ages, and what kind of precipice we find ourselves now at this beginning stage, entering the Aquarius age. And yeah, so take care. So much gold. Shine as always, bright as the spark that you are. Love, wisdom, and power.